Highway. The following is paid programming and does not necessarily reflect the opinions of KHTS or its ownership.
If you lead, I will follow, but if I lead...
Good morning and welcome, listeners. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 1220 AM and 98.1 FM. This is SCVi Charter Schools, Our Way on the Highway. I'm Matt Watson, Director of Maker Outreach for SCVi and iLEAD Schools. I want to thank you for listening today. We've got some great guests for today's show, but first, I want to dispel a myth for the community. I'm betting that some of our listeners didn't know that charter schools, which are public schools, offer most, if not all, of the same experiences that students can get at a traditional high school. At SCVi, we do have a different approach to learning, but we also have many of the same things that students sometimes fear that they'll miss out on attending a smaller school or a charter school. For example, we have student government, we have many clubs and after-school activities, we have a senior prom, and a big one for a lot of our families that they don't want to miss out on. We have an amazingly robust sports program. We'll be hearing about that in just a few minutes with SCVi's athletic director, Ken Erenberg. Later on in the show, we'll be talking with Dr. Alan Pollack from the Santa Clarita Historical Society. He's going to tell us about how the community can get involved with preserving local Santa Clarita history and tell us more about a new national monument that was just passed for approval in Washington, D.C. History and sports, two of my favorite things. And in fact, I was just telling a friend this morning, it is Christmas Day for many of us with the tip-off of March Madness just a few minutes ago. So let's get right into sports. As I said before, my first guest is Ken Erenberg. He is currently the athletic director with SCVi Charter School. Now, Ken has spent his life in and around sports. He played just about every sport you can think of growing up in the San Fernando Valley. When he attended El Camino Real High School, he was a multi-sport athlete where he really started to excel in soccer. Go Conquistadores! He attended the University of Evansville following high school, where he was a standout soccer player. And as a matter of fact, before he even graduated, he signed a professional soccer contract playing with Manchester United. Some of you may have heard of that. Went on to finish his studies at CSUN. I'm a fellow Matador myself, Ken. After graduation and finishing his illustrious sporting career himself, he went on to cover sports for ABC and went into a long career of coaching, which is what he's doing now, along with being athletic director. Good morning, Ken. You've coached for 26 years now.
Good morning, Matt. Wow, that was a really nice intro. I'm feeling kind of old right now. 26 years, yes, that's kind of scary but correct.
Okay, fantastic. So let me develop just a little bit of context for our listeners. Our school, SCVi, was founded just a little more than 10 years ago, but it wasn't until our fourth year that we actually developed a sports program, and even then it was developed with our younger learners, and we didn't offer sports in the high school until just over 4 years ago. The sports program has grown pretty organically from what I understand out of the interest and insistence of our student body. We've kind of opened sports based on what our kids are interested in and kind of what they're insisting on. We started with just a few sports that first year, and in less than 5 years' time, what have we grown to, Ken? Can you tell us a little bit about the different sports that are offered at SCVi?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, currently we have 12 different sports that we run at SCVi, so we're just as big as the big public schools, your foothill teams, your Valencias, your West Ranches. Currently, we have boys and girls cross country. And I can give you a full list if you'd like, Matt.
Yeah, that'd be great. We never know what our listeners are interested in.
We have boys and girls cross country. We have girls volleyball. We actually have a high school flag football league, which was brand new this year.
Fantastic.
It was great because, when you don't have 35 kids, it's kind of tough to play tackle football. So it's a lot of fun for the kids to still be able to play football. And then we have in the winter soccer and basketball. And in the spring, our big amount of sports, we have baseball, softball. Brand new this year is swimming. And also brand new this year, we've had golf in the past, but we actually have a full team this year to compete.
That's fantastic. And I understand that one of your graduates is actually coaching that team.
Yep, we've got Dominic Lentini, and he was one of the guys who started the program, the golf program, and he was one of the kids that came up and said, can we have a golf team? And like you mentioned at the start, one of the great things about SCVi is the fact if enough kids will come up to us and say, hey, can we start a dodgeball team, for example? We'll go out and search and find out, well, there's a dodgeball league at Sky High. Or, you know, any sort of sport like that. We had a bunch of kids this year that came up and said, we like to swim.
Oh, wow.
And we had our first ever swim meet last week, and we're competing in the Heritage League along with Vasquez High School and Trinity and Santa Clarita Christian and others.
Okay, so a league of schools that are about the same size so that it's not like our kids are getting in over their heads, but still able to compete.
Yes, definitely. I mean, some of the kids did get nervous because they saw VHS in purple, and they went, Coach, we're swimming against Valencia. And they found out it was Vasquez, who are the same colors. And Vasquez doesn't have more than 1,000 kids at the school. So still a lot larger than us, but not the size of a Valencia, like 3,000, 3,500 kids. And the great thing was we actually finished in 3rd place out of 7 schools in its first ever swim meet.
Fantastic. In their first swim meet, they took a bronze. That is
Yeah.
fantastic. That's great. Are there any other sports that you guys offer?
Yeah, we also offer, and we're one of the first in the area to offer esports.
Esports. So you're talking about gaming.
Exactly.
Rock on.
Again, this was one of those things where a lot of the kids were coming up and saying, you know, to me, they're all, Coach Erenberg, we all like to play video games. Is there any way that we can get this? And there's a new thing going on called esports leagues. And I said, I'd never heard of this. And they, my son, who's 18 now, goes, Dad, put on Disney Channel, put on ESPN.
Right.
And they're there.
Yep.
So we've been now competing almost for the full year now in esports.
Yeah, and some traditionalists out there might scoff at esports being actual athletics, but if you see the size of the contracts that some of these guys are signing, some of these guys and girls are signing, it's incredible. These are definitely professional athletes making a good living.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Kids are playing, and kids and adults are playing. And I saw one where one of the players for a Tokyo team signed like a $250,000 contract.
Wow, to play video games.
I love it. But again, that's one of the really cool things about a school our size, where the kids not only can create a sport and we can run with it, but they can play multiple sports.
Right. Yeah, that's terrific. So they really get the opportunity to kind of explore maybe what they like and what they don't like. That was something that I found very refreshing when I saw our teams really start to take off in the high school. I remember there were sports that I was interested in high school, and I was athletic, but I wasn't great at anything. I was a little bit too intimidated to go out for some of the sports, like baseball. I played Little League my entire childhood, but I knew I wasn't great, and so I was too intimidated to go out for what was a great team at Saugus High School. At our school, I've noticed kids that might come to us and say, you know, I always wanted to play volleyball, or I always wanted to swim. They're less intimidated and much more likely to get out there, learn the sport, get that experience, and develop some of the, not only the physical, but the social and emotional aspects that sports can develop really deeply.
And that brings so much more to the table when you can have these kids get, you know, the team bonding and all those different experiences. And we have a no-cut policy at SCVi.
Terrific.
So every child gets an opportunity to be on a team. And it's not the question. We don't have, and I understand in the bigger schools, they've got 1,000 kids trying out for a sport.
Sure, yeah.
So they can't do what we can do.
Can't have a baseball team with 87 players. Yeah.
No, it's kind of difficult.
Yeah.
So we can keep everybody on the team who wants to come out.
That is terrific. That is really terrific. So you develop a lot of that growth and learning for everybody. I understand you also have something that I didn't even realize existed at high schools. You've got a rather well-decorated equestrian team.
Yeah, our equestrian team, which was kind of unusual. I mean, I've been an athletic director at a few other schools, never been a part of an equestrian team. And I have to admit, when I was first told that we have an equestrian team, I said, okay, I don't know how to coach horsing or any type of jumping or racing in any way, shape, or form. So I went up and I called the parent who was in charge of it. I said, please explain this to me, because I've coached pretty much every sport you can imagine in the high school ranks. Never anything to do with horse or equestrian at all. So I'm like, okay, do we do jumps? Is it steeplechase? Is it sprint? And it's a lot of difference. It's even show horses.
Okay.
And we've won 4 or 5, I believe, championships now in the last 7-8 years.
You know, I was talking to Coach Cheryl just last night, and she was telling me, yeah, they have 4 league championships under their belt, and they're actually competing in their final show just next month. Their final show is at the LA Equestrian Center in Glendale, 9 a.m. April 14th. If anybody's interested in going down to watch and support the SCVi equestrian team, or maybe, you know, you're a learner or a parent of a learner who's maybe interested in following an equine passion and want to go see how they're doing. So yeah, April 14th. I'm looking forward to heading down and seeing them.
Yeah, I'm planning on it as well. And it's what's great is I was like, that's our most decorated team.
Right? Yeah, Coach Cheryl does an amazing job.
Incredible.
Yeah. Well, go Stallions. Fantastic. So what's next? Are there any new sports coming up? What are your hopes and goals for the sports program at SCVi?
Well, with 12 right now, we're running almost at complete capacity for the amount of students we have.
Okay.
But I'd actually like to add, and we tried adding it this year, fell a little bit short, girls basketball.
Okay.
And spring, we are so packed, but we have so many kids that would love to do track and field. And we have a league for both of those as well that we can go into. So it's not a very difficult thing. We just need the numbers.
Okay. Okay, so it's a matter of maybe adding a few more students to the roles next year, and we'll have enough space to maybe fill out a couple more teams.
That's where I run around the school and say, do you like this?
Get a friend. Yeah.
Yep. Bring a friend and let's go out and start this team up.
Fantastic. You know, that's the way our baseball team developed. A group of guys came to us and said, we'd like to start a baseball team. That very first year, we said, fantastic. We need 9. We need 9. And 8 players came back and said, well, we have 8. Can we do that? Well, unfortunately, no, we couldn't. And so they worked at it and came back with, I think, 15 players the following year. And that year they took off and did pretty well for their inaugural year. Went to the playoffs. Their coach was named Coach of the Year, League Coach of the Year. It was a great experience. So do you coach any of these teams, or is it a full-time job just kind of coordinating?
It is a full-time job, but
here it comes.
But I have those, those coaching juices, I guess, flowing through my body nonstop.
Yep.
And that's something that I don't want to give up. I mean, I know most schools it's tough for an athletic director to coach and to do the job, but I love it. And right now, currently at SCVi, I'm coaching the girls volleyball team, which had its best record, first winning record in school history this year.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Yep. And then the soccer team, which we in the past had only had a girls team. And then last year we had a boys and girls team. This year, we didn't quite have enough to do both teams, so we combined for a co-ed team, but we participated in the boys' league.
Okay, in the boys' league with a co-ed team.
And we made CIF playoffs this year.
Boom, check it out.
Yeah, so
how's that for equity?
Woo!
Nice.
Well, as I've always said, I don't care anything about you, who you are, what you are. If you can play the sport or want to play the sport, I'm putting you on the field or the court.
There we go.
And the final sport is that I coach in the spring. So, yes, I do one every season.
Okay, great.
Is the girls' softball team. And the girls' softball team, as I think you're aware of by the shirts that we were all wearing around campus, won its first ever league title last year.
Fantastic.
And we're undefeated.
Wow, undefeated. I didn't realize you guys finished the season undefeated.
In league, we were 9-0 or 10-0. And then we went on to the CIF playoffs as well last year. And this year, unfortunately, due to the weather, the rain has not been my friend right now. We're 2-0 on the season right now, but we've had 5 rainouts.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we've had a wet season, so hopefully things will dry up and you guys can complete those games. Wow, that's amazing, Coach. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, we talked about how the sports program actually started off with our younger learners. What about them? We've been talking a lot about the offerings in high school. What sports do we have for our younger learners in the lower school?
Well, what's great about the school period is the fact that we have a sports program for the K through 12. So it's great. It gives all the kids opportunities to play sports. For the parents, it means they don't have to pick up the kids, take them to soccer practice, wait for an hour and a half or 2 hours, then go get them again, and they're not running back and forth. It's kind of that one-stop shop.
Terrific.
You know, so we have all the sports. What occurred about I believe it was about 8 years ago now, when I was at a different school as athletic director, about 3 other athletic directors in the Santa Clarita Valley decided we needed to have a sports league for our junior high and elementary.
Okay.
So we founded the Scale League, which is the Santa Clarita Athletic Independent League.
Oh, cool.
And that's what we currently are in,
All right.
is in this league. And we offer, for example, right now we have Pee Wee basketball, which are for grades K1 and 2-3.
So
which,
even the youngest learners are playing basketball. That's great.
which I think is my favorite to watch, because like they play soccer and football as well, and it's just the joy that you see in the kids' faces.
Absolutely.
It's what it's all about. And then we've got elementary boys flag football for grades 4 through 6. We have volleyball. We have middle school boys soccer and girls soccer. And what's great about soccer is we play at the indoor soccer center on Rye
terrific.
Canyon.
No rainouts there.
Yeah, no rainouts, and it's always air conditioned when it's 105 out. So
I bet
that's
the
my
kids like
favorite
that.
play.
Yeah.
I love coaching
we
if I
go.
get the chance. That's the level I like to coach.
Terrific. Terrific. So, gosh, there's a variety of offerings for all ages, for all athletic interests and aptitudes. That's terrific. It's truly an inclusive environment, much like our classrooms are. That's great.
Exactly, and it's year round, which is even better. There's
Yeah.
always something to do.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. So, being a small and a relatively younger school, I have had families ask me, is SCVi registered with the NCAA for those students that are interested, like you were, in playing sports in college?
We are, and we have a full-time college counselor, Chris Nilsson,
Okay.
and we are also with NCAA Clearinghouse,
Okay.
which basically means if your child wants to play at the next level, they have to go through a clearinghouse, which just basically means all the colleges have easier access to see that the student or learner has taken all of the correct coursework to attend college. So it's just easier for them to go through it.
Yeah, it's as we'll talk about maybe in a little bit. The NCAA has really tightened down, and we're talking over the last several decades on high schools, making sure that the kids are taking the rigorous coursework that they need to be taking in high school. You know, I remember when I was a kid, and this might take you way back, I remember watching an episode of What's Happening, and there was a basketball star that was talking about the easy ride that he was getting through high school because he was good at athletics. And he was getting straight A's in all of his classes, but most of his classes were music appreciation. And when his friends asked, music appreciation, what's that? He says, well, they ask, would you like to hear some music? And I say, I'd appreciate that.
Oh, wow.
And they give me an A. And so the NCAA has had to obviously tighten down on that, and making sure that our kids are getting not only a good athletic experience, but a good academic experience as well. And so they actually look pretty deeply into the course offerings and the curriculum that we're teaching our kids to make sure that everyone is getting a high-quality education and not just access to high school athletics.
Yeah, it's difficult to find theory of ping pong anymore at the college level.
There you go. So I know we've only got a couple of minutes, but I did bring up, speaking of those kind of out-of-bounds kind of issues, the role of athletics in college admissions has been in the news a bit lately. For those who don't understand, can you talk just a little bit about what happened, what we saw in the last couple weeks?
Well, it's been an ongoing investigation, and it's kind of a sad statement in a lot of ways, where parents were either paying a certain individual money to help get their kids into a college. And what we found out most recently was there was a UCLA student who was supposedly on the girls' soccer team, yet had never played soccer. And they then investigated the club team she played for, and the head of the club said she never played soccer. And then they found out that the parents had given someone about $150,000, I believe, to set this up.
So there were parents who were there were parents who were lying on their children's college applications saying they were involved in sports, and then paying that college coach to recruit them and look the other way, not look into whether or not they were actual athletes. And the reason a parent would do that is because in some cases the college admission requirements are a little bit lower, and you're able to get into maybe a little bit more prestigious school if you are an athlete. Wow, that's crazy that parents take advantage of that system.
It's really sad, and the thing that makes it even more sad is it drops even down to the lower levels. When one of my children was about 11, after one of the games that he was playing for basketball, a high school coach from a private school walked on the court
wow.
and approached him and asked him, would he be interested in going to that school?
Started recruiting him.
So it
starts
starts very early, and hopefully we can correct this situation.
Yeah. Yeah, there definitely needs to be a serious system of controls, but it looks like the FBI and the NCAA are on top of it, and this story will continue to develop. Well, Ken, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck in all your spring seasons. We're going to take a short break, but stay tuned, because when we come back, we'll be talking with Dr. Alan Pollack from the Santa Clarita Historical Society. You're listening to SCVi Charter Schools, Our Way on the Highway. I'm your host, Matt Watson, and this is your hometown station, KHTS.
Life's not meant to feel complacent. It's meant to make you feel alive. The youth ministry at the Church on the Way Santa Clarita believes that students can belong to the group where we will help them believe they have a purpose in Christ and become all that He has created them to be. We want to see God's power come alive in our generation. We love meeting new people, so come hang out with us. Doors open at 6 p.m. and service starts at 7 every Wednesday night. For more information about the Church on the Way Santa Clarita, including service times and what's happening through the end of the year, visit tcotwsc.org.
The Oasis treatment at the Ivy Day Spa begins with a gentle exfoliation, then rinsed away in warm showers. You're painted with a soothing aloe vera, shea butter, and coconut oil body mask. Then travel through the warm Hydro Cape chambers. The relaxation chamber completes your Oasis body moisturizing treatment with a pH balancing mist and a warm cup of tea. Feel refreshed, hydrated, and relaxed. Pamper yourself. The Ivy Day Spa, Town Center Drive.
College of the Canyon short-term classes begin in April and finish in May. Learn a new skill such as photography or career and life planning. Pick up a quick transferable class such as political science or math. Too busy? Take an online class. Textbooks too expensive? Search our class schedule for OER classes which don't require you to buy textbooks. Need to take a class this summer? Our summer schedule is already online. Visit canyons.edu/class schedule now.
Starting a landscape project? SCV Water is available to help you from start to finish. At their free gardening classes, you'll learn planning, design, and budget, plant selection and care, irrigation and maintenance, sustainable landscape basics, and so much more. Visit yourscvwater.com for a schedule of free gardening classes. That's yourscvwater.com.
If you lead, I will follow. But if I lead, we'll build a bridge to tomorrow.
Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 1220 on the AM dial and 98.1 FM. This is Matt Watson, your host for SCVi Charter Schools, Our Way on the Highway. Welcome back. I've had a lot of fun so far today talking about one of my favorite topics, sports, but we're going to shift gears into one of my other passions, and that's history. Our guest this morning is Dr. Alan Pollack. Dr. Pollack is president of the Santa Clarita Valley Historical Society. As a local historian, he's written numerous articles on Santa Clarita history, which have been published in the Heritage Junction Dispatch, the Santa Clarita Signal, and on scvhistory.com. He's also co-authored 2 books on Santa Clarita history. He's appeared on live interview programs on SCV TV, did a segment on the St. Francis Dam disaster for the Travel Channel's Mysteries at the Museum program, and he's also been interviewed about the Historical Society and SCV history right here on KHTS. Over the last 6 years, he's been a prominent advocate for national memorial status for the St. Francis Dam site. Oh, and if that weren't enough, he's also this. When he's not busy sharing his deep expertise on local history, Dr. Pollack also practices internal medicine with Kaiser Permanente, having studied at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical School in Dallas.
That's the one I get paid for.
There you go. Fantastic. Dr. Pollack, welcome in. Thank you very much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
So we have a lot that we can talk about. Santa Clarita has a really rich history, but I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about your personal life first, if you don't mind.
Sure.
How long have you been a physician?
I've been a physician now for 31 years.
Okay, so it's
at Kaiser Permanente, and I'm now sort of semi-retired, and by that it just means that I work less hours, but I still have my full panel of patients that I take care of.
Okay, so you just make sure you keep them healthier so that they have to see you less.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Terrific. Through high school, I was certain that I was going to study medicine until my senior year, when it was interesting. A history teacher actually really reached in deep and touched me, Mr. Fred Aldrich, at Saugus High School, and that turned my focus to getting my degree in history and teaching instead of medicine. Have you always loved history, and what did that, if at all, factor into your career choice?
Yeah, interesting that you mentioned that. I have always had that passion for history, and I think if I had another life to live, that might have been something I'd have gone into. I've been interested since I was a kid. I grew up in the 1960s and was very interested in all the stuff that happened, the civil rights movement and all that. And I started collecting when my parents would get newspapers from the Los Angeles Times with headlines in them of the big headlines of the 60s. I kept them. I still have them. And have actually developed now a newspaper collection dating back to the 1600s of all the major events in American and world history during that period. So that's kind of got me interested in that. And then I became interested in the history of the Old West because I lived in Dallas, Texas for a few years to go into medical school. And when I came back here to Newhall, I started reading about the history here when I moved here in 1991. And dang it, it's the Old West here. It was the Old West. So that really got me interested in the local history here.
Absolutely. Newcomers to our valley often think that we're a younger community and we don't have much history going back before the opening of Six Flags Magic Mountain. But you're right. We've got a deep and rich history to be proud of here in Santa Clarita.
This was not only was this a classic Old West town, everything you see, that you would see in the Western movies really actually happened here. And as a matter of fact, after all the real stuff happened here, we became the Hollywood, the background for a lot of the early Westerns movies. And we were also very prominent in the early history of Los Angeles. So we had a very big role to play here in local history.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that if you had another career, it sounds like you've got quite an illustrious history career as it is. You're currently president of the local historical society. Tell us a little bit about the history of the historical society. How long have they been around? What's the mission and the goal of the Historical Society of Santa Clarita?
They've been around since 1975. It was started at that time, and the overall goal, I think, over the years has been a couple of things. One is there were a number of old buildings, old historic buildings in Santa Clarita that were in danger of being destroyed and put away with, and a number of those buildings were moved to our Heritage Junction next to William S. Hart Park, or they like to say within William S. Hart Park. That we have been preserving over the years, and that includes things like the Saugus train station, the Pardee House, the Newhall Ranch House, and a few other buildings. And we have an old train that was given to us by Gene Autry from Melody Ranch, used to be in the movies there, and was also a Southern Pacific train. So we've been preserving all these and maintaining all these buildings. And plus, we have an archive of the history of Santa Clarita, including documents, newspapers, photographs, articles, things that we're trying to preserve for future generations so that we have a big repository of our history.
That is fantastic and such important work that y'all are doing, and we appreciate it. So what are the challenges of preserving our local history, and why is it so important?
Why is it important? It's important because it's the soul of your community. It's why your community developed and why you're here. And without knowing that basic foundation, it's hard to understand what this community represents. The challenges are, as with any small 501c3 organization, it's hard to obtain money for what we're doing. And I always like to say we're competing against kids, dogs, and cancer, and those are all great things and very important. So history comes in sort of a second to some of the other fundraising in the community, and so it's a little more difficult for us. We also have all these buildings to maintain, which are old and need a lot of maintenance, and we struggle to get the funding for that as well.
So yeah, that's interesting. So where does your funding typically come from? Are you a line item in the state government or the local government's budget, or is it strictly donation?
It is traditionally strictly donations, fundraising that we do, although we don't do as much as we should probably. We did just recently get a very generous $75,000 grant from the city of Santa Clarita to repair roofs on a number of the buildings, which we're very grateful for.
Oh, that's
But
wonderful.
generally, we are used to not having any government support for what we do.
Okay, so you depend on the folks here around town, like Sarah and I. So if one of our listeners is interested in helping support and preserve the history of Santa Clarita, where can they go to maybe make a donation or get involved in a fundraiser?
As far as donations go, the best place is to go to our website, which is www.scvhs.org, and there is a PayPal button there that you can donate with. You can also send it if you go to the website there and see the address. It can be sent to that. As far as volunteering, we need people as docents at our museum. We need people to help with our archiving of our historical documents. We need people to help with the maintenance of the buildings. You can call Barbara Martinelli at 661-254-1275. She coordinates all that for us, and she would be happy to put you to work.
Fantastic. So if maybe my schedule doesn't permit, or maybe I don't feel as comfortable being as hands-on like a docent or someone who's doing the physical preserving of documents, I can make a donation on your website, which again is...
We have two websites, but this particular one is www.scvhs.org.
Santa Clarita Valley Historical Society, scvhs.org?
Yes.
Fantastic.
That's for Santa Clarita Valley Historical Society. That's just an abbreviation.
Okay, perfect.
I should mention our second website, which is our historic archives. This is where you can research any aspect of Santa Clarita history and see all the documents and stuff that we have. That is www.scvhistory.com, run by Leon Warden.
Terrific. And one more time for those folks that that maybe are interested in being a little bit more hands-on, who can they call to get involved as a volunteer?
Barbara Martinelli, that's 661-254-1275.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Now, I understand an exciting thing has just happened in Washington, D.C., a project that you've really been championing for a while. So can you tell us a little bit about the national monument status for the St. Francis Dam disaster?
Well, the status is we now have a national monument and national memorial out in San Francisco Canyon commemorating the St. Francis Dam disaster that occurred in 1928. And that would the bill to create that designation was just signed on March 12th, the 91st anniversary of the disaster, as part of a big lands bill that was passed in Washington.
Wow. Well, fantastic. Congratulations on
Thank you.
getting that through. And for our listeners who haven't had a chance to go visit the site or maybe don't know the history, can you walk us through that tragic event 91 years ago?
Of course. So one of the aspects of Los Angeles history is the acquisition of water. Since we are a semi-desert area, when Los Angeles was first started in 1781, 44 people came here, and they had the Los Angeles River to give them water. And as the city grew, that source of water became less viable as to allow us to grow to the big city that we are now. So in the 1920s, William Mulholland, who was the chief of the water department in Los Angeles, which is now the Department of Water and Power, but at that time was the Bureau of Water Works and Supply, decided to build a series of dams in Los Angeles to have more reserve of water. First of all, he had been a hero in Los Angeles, building the Los Angeles Aqueduct, which was completed in 1913, brought water from the Owens Valley to Los Angeles. The Owens Valley was very angry with Los Angeles because of the way that Los Angeles obtained the water, which they felt was somewhat underhanded. And that's debatable. That's a whole another subject, but that's how they felt and still feel actually today. And they started blowing up the aqueduct, and because of various incidents in the
Let me pause you right there.
Yes.
They actually were physically blowing up the aqueduct.
They were physically going out there
Wow.
blowing, and there was a one incident where they took over one of the gates of the aqueduct called the Alabama Gates, and they opened up the gate and let the water flow into the Owens Valley away from the aqueduct, and they occupied that for like 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
anyways.
because of that, and because of concerns about the San Andreas Fault knocking out the aqueduct as it crossed out around Lake Elizabeth, Mulholland decided to build this series of dams, the last of which was the St. Francis Dam.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he built it in a lousy geologic area, and he did not correctly build the dam. And as the dam filled up over a 2-year period from 1926 to 1928, it started saturating the hillsides next to the dam, and a big landslide gave way on the evening of March 12th, two and a half minutes before midnight, and caused the dam to collapse. The dam had 12.5 billion gallons of water, which went out into the San Francisco Canyon through Castaic Junction and down the Santa Clara River Valley, decimating parts of Piru, Fillmore, Santa Paula, Satakoy, until it emptied out into the sea 5.5 hours later after traveling 54 miles, and over 400 people were killed.
Wow, it's one of the greatest disasters of California history in terms of lives lost, I believe?
Yes, the second greatest disaster, the first being the San Francisco earthquake of 1906, which killed over 2,000 people, and this one killed over 400 people.
Wow. So everybody knows about the disaster up in San Francisco, and so I really appreciate you bringing more attention to the St. Francis Dam and that disaster.
Well, this was a huge national headline for days after this broke. It was not a small thing, but because of the nature of Los Angeles in the 1920s, this up-and-coming city that wanted to become a world-class city, this was a black mark on the city and their hero, William Mulholland. And so efforts were made to sort of get this under the rug and not cover it up necessarily, but get it forgotten.
Kind of move on.
Move on.
And I certainly understand that at the time, but then in doing so, it kind of downplayed the role in history and how impactful
they
it
were
was to the
very
region.
effective in getting it forgotten, and it was essentially forgotten until the 1960s, when some local historians like Charles Outland started bringing it up again, writing books. We had Frank Rock here locally, who we now call the Dam Man, who kept the memory alive for a number of years with the Historical Society and did the tours out to the dam site. Wow. And but there were very relatively few people knew about it, and this is why we wanted to correct that now.
Okay, so a very important part of our city, our state, our country's history, as you said. So if I were to take the family up to take a tour of that site, what would I expect to see today?
Well, if you go up there yourself, first of all, you're probably going to pass it by and not know you passed it, because again, they were very effective in making it just blend into the scenery. When the dam broke, there was a center segment of it that was left, which we call the tombstone, and it was completely intact. And there was it's called a wing dike, which was an extension of the dam over a ridge that they needed when they increased the height of the dam during the production process. And those things were completely intact. Well, Los Angeles went and dynamited them. We believe because, that they really wanted to kind of blend into the scenery and be forgotten.
Sure.
So when you pass by there now, you see big hunks of what look like big boulders. If you go to where the foundation of the dam site is, there's a whole bunch of blocks there, which are fairly indistinct if you don't know what you're looking at. But we actually have huge blocks of the dam that are still sitting there just downstream from the dam, and a lot of elements of the foundation are still sitting at where the dam was. And if we point that out to you, it's extremely interesting to go through that site.
Absolutely. And so is there currently now a monument there?
Well, here's the thing. I actually came up with this idea 7 years ago after I visited Johnstown, Pennsylvania, which was the site of the Johnstown flood, another dam that ruptured in 1889, killed over 2,000 people, and was the biggest dam disaster in American history. They are a national memorial, which was designated by Congress in the 1960s, and they had a visitor center, museum, documentary films, rangers, the whole 9 yards. And I read about that particular disaster, and there were a lot of parallels to what happened here. So I realized there's nothing out here. We have one plaque that's 1.5 miles down in front of the Department of Water and Power,
Seen it,
powerhouse number 2. There's a couple of plaques downstream here and there and a statue that they built in Santa Paula. But for an event of this magnitude, we had nothing at the site.
Right.
And I thought that was wrong. That we should try. And it does have state historic landmark status.
Sure.
But I felt we had to go for something bigger than that.
Yeah.
And that's where I came up with the idea. Why don't we make this a national memorial? And I was lucky enough to get the acquaintance of Diane Erskine Hellriegel, who I answered my call on Facebook for seeing if we could do this, and she's had a lot of experience with getting legislation through Congress, and we've been working on this for the past 6 years, and finally got it done just a couple of weeks ago.
That's amazing. Again, congratulations.
Yeah.
Passion really does move things.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. So what are some of the other things that the Historical Society provides to help people learn more about Santa Clarita history?
Mostly it's we do lectures, we do tours. We have that website, which has a tremendous amount of information. We advocate in the community. We keep up these buildings at Heritage Junction, which are really our best examples of historic buildings from the past. We are currently working on. We have a small museum in our Saugus train station that people can come visit on the weekends. That has some artifacts and stuff from Santa Clarita history. But we are actually working on creating a better and bigger museum in one of the historic homes there called the Pardee House. And we have been working on a number of years on restoring that building, and we're planning on moving the museum there and creating a more world-class looking cool museum that we hope people will like.
Terrific.
But we need money for that too.
Okay, absolutely.
As with
Could always use donations.
Yeah.
And our seniors were actually out at Heritage Junction to take their senior pictures a few years back, and a lot of them were just kind of blown away by all the fascinating things that there are to see out there. So if someone's thinking about maybe taking the kids out there this weekend, what are the hours of Heritage Junction?
So the Saugus train station is open on weekends between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. We have a couple of other buildings that have been restored by the Questers organization, which are open the first Sunday of the month, I believe, between 1 and 4, and that's our Edison House and Kingsbury House, which are towards the back of the junction.
Okay.
And we have docents available in the Saugus train station to take you through the history if you're interested in that.
Terrific. And I've been on one of those tours. They really do a great job.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Pollack, I wish I had a little bit more time for you, but we are up against the clock right now. Appreciate you coming out and sharing a little bit of our local history. And again, really appreciate all the work that you're doing to help preserve and promote the history of the Santa Clarita Valley.
It's my pleasure, and we're going to keep on doing it.
Fantastic. It's time again for a short commercial break, but stay tuned for our wrap-up. You're listening to SCVi Charter Schools Our Way on the Highway. I'm your host, Matt Watson, with your hometown station, KHTS.
Lots of people can build websites, but there's one Santa Clarita company that specializes in designing websites for your business, Small Dog Creative. The Small Dog Creative team is made up of local designers who are hands-on. Their talented team of experts build premium websites and redefine branding. Small Dog Creative doesn't just build websites. They'll upgrade your business's online presence and turn your business into a powerful online brand. Small Dog Creative, Santa Clarita's most innovative web and design company. SmallDogCreative.com.
It's never been so easy to have a great night out. Whether it's a date night or girls' night out, experience Pinot's Palette in Valencia or Encino. Order your favorite drink from the bar and paint your very own masterpiece. No art experience needed. Local artists make it easy for you. So you can paint, sip, and listen to great music while creating a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. Fun, relaxing, and memorable. Pinot's Palette. To book your party, go to pinotspalette.com. That's pinotspalette.com.
Indulge yourself in a world of wine at the 7th Annual Sierra Pelona Valley AVA Wine Festival, Saturday, April 6th from noon to 4 p.m., benefiting the Zonta Club of SCVi. Get your Chardonnay on with live music, gourmet food, handmade crafts, and the best local wines, beers, spirits, and ciders Santa Clarita has to offer at Reyes Winery. Dionysus dilettantes and wine connoisseurs alike will enjoy this festival. Sponsored by Reyes Winery, Pepsi, Anheuser-Busch, California Bank and Trust, and Mercedes-Benz of Valencia. Visit reyeswinery.com to purchase tickets.
Must be 21 or over.
Welcome to Our Way on the Highway. The following is paid programming and does not necessarily reflect the opinions of KHTS or its ownership.
And welcome back. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 1220 on the AM dial and FM at 98.1. This is Matt Watson of SCVi Charter School. Wow, this show was really short today. Got deep into two things that I'm most passionate about, sports and history, and just had a fascinating time. I wish we could have spent more time with Dr. Pollack and with Coach Erenberg talking about what's going on in SCVi athletics and what's going on in the Santa Clarita history community. But maybe we can have each of them back here real soon to talk about further developments as they unfold. So we've got some fantastic things to share with you. I know if you're passionate about college basketball, you're going to be dialed into the March Madness tournament for the next couple of days like I will. But we've also got a lot of other things coming up for those of you that are interested in a diversity of events. As you're driving around, you might want to grab your calendar or your notepad or maybe take a voice memo on your phone because we've got a lot of events to share with you. First, as part of Santa Clarita history, the annual Cowboy Festival will take place on Thursday, April 11th through Sunday, April 13th. So April 11th through 13th, that weekend there, the annual Cowboy Festival. For those of you that have been out, you know how exciting and fun that event is. Right here down the street from the station at Hart Park and Heritage Junction, which we were just talking about. To learn more about that, go to cowboyfestival.org, cowboyfestival.org. Coming this weekend are two really amazing events that I'm proud to say that SCVi will be part of. First, there's the Southern California Makerspace Festival. Last month we had Renee Marshall on as our guest from College of the Canyons Makerspace. And the COC Makerspace is hosting this event. The Makerspace Festival is open to the public. It's completely free on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on the campus of College of the Canyons. Bring your kids. You won't want to go without your kids. You'll get to see all kinds of really cool maker and technology demos. There will be interactive activities so your kids can get involved and build and do things for themselves. You can learn more about creating and building and the maker community in the Santa Clarita Valley. And our own SCVi high school learner, Bobby Stewart, will be there displaying a video game that he developed as part of a class project. Also this Saturday is the Santa Clarita Youth Art Showcase. This is the third year that the city has hosted a youth art showcase, bringing together all 5 school districts of the valley, plus other collaborators to really showcase all there is in Santa Clarita for young people in the arts. I'm proud to say that both SCVi and iLEAD Agua Dulce will be part of this event. The Santa Clarita Youth Art Showcase is also from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. this Saturday, and it takes place at the Center, which is the complex just up the hill from the Aquatic Center at Center Point Drive. So, if waxing creative this weekend, consider your Saturday booked because both the Makerspace Festival and the Youth Art Showcase are happening. And both of these events will have some fabulous food trucks on hand for you to enjoy. Also, the KHTS Home and Garden Show and Earth Arbor Day Festival is coming to Central Park for the whole weekend of Saturday, April 27th and Sunday, April 28th. You'll see SCVi there as well. SCVi's got its hand in a lot of these local events. To learn more, go to SantaClaritaHomeandGardenShow.com. It's kind of a long URL, but easy to remember. SantaClaritaHomeandGardenShow.com. This weekend, more activities going on, actually starting tonight at 7 p.m. and continuing both Friday and Saturday night at 7 p.m. at SCVi is the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. No, this is not a spelling competition. It's actually a musical. It's not an actual spelling bee. It's a hilarious musical that our learners have put together under the direction of our facilitator, Kevin Becker. I've seen many of the productions at SCVi's Shakespeare Theater, and they do a great job on all of them. But our kids did a showcase at our annual benefit dinner just a week ago, and they were fantastic. Just had us rolling in the aisles. So if you're a fan of musical theater or comedy, please come out to SCVi this evening and this weekend starting at 7 p.m. Again, this is directed by Kevin Becker, who directed the Laramie Project in the fall. That production, as a matter of fact, was so successful that they were asked to give an encore run of the show. So if you're into great theater, go to eventbrite.com. It's eventbrite.com. And then in the upper right-hand corner, you just search Spelling Bee, and it'll take you right to the link to purchase tickets, which start at just $5. Remarkably reasonable. And if you're into horses, don't forget that SCVi's four-time championship equestrian team will be participating in their last show of the year at the LA Equestrian Center in Burbank, Sunday, April 14th at 9 a.m. Now, I've talked a lot about SCVi and SCVi's participation in local activities in the coming days. For those of you who aren't aware, SCVi is a local classroom-based charter school. It is a free public school. Yeah, many people don't realize that charter schools do not charge tuition. It is a free public school, but we have a very unique take on teaching and learning. We actually showcase a project-based learning methodology where the kids can actually get hands-on involved and really pour their passions and their own voice into the schoolwork that they're doing and make their schoolwork a lot more authentic for them. And that's how you get so many kids willing to get involved in all the different community activities and the different things going on around town, because it's actually part of their learning. It's not necessarily extracurricular activities. So if you're interested in getting more information about SCVi Charter School or any of the other schools in the iLEAD network, go to iLeadSantaClarita.org. That's ILEAD SantaClarita.org. Or you can call the front desk at 661-705-4820. 661-705-4820. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time that I have for today. I really did enjoy talking two of my favorite passions, sports and history, and maybe next time we'll pull in that third one, good gourmet cuisine. I want to thank Dr. Alan Pollack and Ken Erenberg for being our guests today. You're listening to SCVi Charter Schools, Our Way on the Highway. I'm your host, Matt Watson. Thank you for listening to your hometown station, KHTS.